So the next thing I'm going to introduce you to is something called slots. And what I've been trying to tell you so far is that each of these components are unique. They're each unique instances of a headings component. So by definition then, they stand alone. They don't depend on anything else because they're reusable pieces of code. They're reusable components that literally should stand alone, independent of anything else. That's the whole point of reusable code. But they have to be unique. There has to be something that's different about this heading that's different about this heading. And so one thing we can do to provide each of these objects, these headings objects with unique data, is what we call slots. And the idea here is if I put in heading 1 here and I put in heading 2 here, just for simplicity, I'm going to erase what I've done here. Oh, and by the way, just why I use these single ticks is because if you use double, let me go back to this. I have two thoughts going on here, and I'm sorry for that, but I felt like I should clarify why I did that in the last video, and I don't think I did. So let me go back to where I just was. So if you put double quotes, you can see that it's not happy. If you put double quotes, it's going to want everything on the same line as far as the code's concerned. In fact, I have an extra thingy or buffer. And so being able to put in multiple lines for readability is going to be difficult. And you can kind of see where I'm headed with this, I think. And so let me make this bigger so that we can see that needs to be here. And so now I'm okay. Well, that's okay and it works. However, it's just kind of cumbersome, especially if my template gets bigger and bigger, which ideally, and yes, it's going to. So if I put in these backticks, then I get more leverage. I get more ability to put this on multiple lines. So kind of backpedal there as to why I did I kind of glossed over it, I think. And so now I'm unglossing over it and showing you why I use those single quotes instead of double quotes. So there you go. So this is where we started off in the video. But just to keep things confusing, not my intention, I'm going to just go back to a single root element because it's just cleaner for my demonstration. All right. And so back to the idea of slots, S-L-O-T-S. And so I have put in heading 1 and heading 2 to make each of these components, they're each their own people, they're each their own individuals, they're their own objects, but now they have to have data that's unique to each of them. And in order to put data in between the open and closing heading, we're going to use something called slots. And so I'm going to get rid of this hard-coded "this is a heading," which showed up on all of my components. And I'm going to put an open and closed slot, S-L-O-T, and a closing S-L-O-T. And all that means is in my template, whatever somebody puts in, or whatever the programmer, whatever you put in between these open and closed heading tags is what's going to be placed in between this open and closed slot. So if we look at that now, we should see opening and closing 1 and opening and closing 2. And I'm not seeing anything. There it is. Just didn't refresh itself. So now we have heading 1 and heading 2. I got a little worried there for a minute. Isn't that the worst feeling when you hit refresh and it doesn't do what you... Of course, that's the normal feeling. And when it does do what you wanted it to do, you're like, yay! And the angels sing. So anyway... So in this video, we have successfully created slots, which gives us the ability to edit data in between each of our individual components to actually put something different in between the open and closing tag and have it show up here within in our HTML page.